Welcome to Empower Team Call for our Monday night call. I hope you guys are having a good start to your new year. And so today we're gonna kind of dig into some practical stuff, some really applicable things that hopefully can bring some clarity. There are some basics with this business that I don't care how long you've done it, how good you get at it. There's certain ingredients to the recipe that are worth revisiting. And honestly, sometimes I feel like the longer you do this, the easier it is to just keep adding in things. And sometimes it's good to just go back to the basics. I watched an NBA documentary the other day, totally random, but they were talking about the best players get in there and practice dribbling and practice passing. Like these are professional athletes, but they go back to the basics. So there's all sorts of fancy stuff you can get into and learn and do, but there's a few things that your workflow should look like. So I always thought it was fascinating, the whole calls when I first started, like, come work with a jewel or work like a jewel. And a lot of times it's like, what is that? What are you talking about? And what does it look like when you sit down to work your business? So one thing I want to tell you is the diamonds really aren't doing a lot of things different from silvers and senior silvers. Coaching is probably the biggest difference, I would say, as you grow, but that's just a new thing to learn. But when it comes to income producing activity and workflow, it's the same ingredients. Now, as you get more successful and are able to have more time, maybe leave your full-time job, the volume you do might change. The ingredients do not change. All right. And so as I go through things today, I want you to think of them not on a bare minimum aspect, but don't tell yourself the lie that, oh, that sounds like too much. Oh, I'm too busy to do that. That's not true. You can do one of each of the things I talk about. And on great days, you can do 8 of each of the things I'm talking about. So it will look different, even for me, who left my last full-time job. Some days when the kids are sick, I can't do as much, and other days I can do more. So that's the glory of this business. But you do have to kind of hold yourself accountable. So today is triaging your time. And for anybody in the medical field, triage, the essence of it is making sure you put the most important things first. Because if you move the things that aren't so important before the really sick people, then the sick people will die before you can get to them. And so I need you to think of your business that way, all right? Because there's a lot of cool, fun things you can do, like coaching. I can do lots of coaching all the time. I love it. It's fun. If I don't send messages and post, my business will start to die. It will start to go backwards. So when it comes to triaging, what I need to do, all of us have to hold ourselves accountable. So after this call, I hope you kind of have a new sense of, what am I supposed to do? When am I supposed to do it? What order am I supposed to do things in? What's it supposed to look like? All the stimulus, hopefully a little bit less of that. So we're just going to start with what your income producing activity looks like. There's a million IPA sheets out there. Use all of them, use none of them. It does not matter. These are just tools, things that some people like to use. And I kind of go through phases in my business where I'll use the sheets per se a little more often than others. However, I do think you need to write down, like on a piece of paper, what you're doing to hold yourself accountable, almost like a little journal. If that means printing off the IPA sheets, if that means looking at them on your phone and just putting little ticks down. In my experience, it's very hard to stay super consistent and super accountable when you don't have a written record of anything. And it's kind of like looking in the mirror when you've done your hair and makeup, like, does it really look like you thought? And I think a lot of times we don't want to write things down or keep track of things because we're afraid of what it's actually going to look like. So step up to that and actually hold yourself accountable. Inside IPA, inside that umbrella, and if you're new here, that's income producing activity. Income being the key word there, income producing activities. There are a lot of activities that produce lots of things. There are a few that produce income, and we can be here all day to help people and achieve all sorts of things we want to achieve. We need money to achieve those things, period. That's okay. So you don't have to necessarily want to go buy a bunch of designer things to need the money. All right. Posting, we're going to start with that. Now for the next few things I talk about, you can vary the order a little bit. I highly suggest doing the thing you hate or dislike the most first. There's lots of data out there that I could send you about that, the whole like kiss the frog or eat the frog, whatever people say. Do the thing you dislike the most first, because it takes up the most energy and the most mental space. So every minute you wait to do those things, the probability of you doing them and the quality of you doing them is going to go down. So if messages bother you or coming up with a new post bothers you, put your time into that first. With posting, guys, non-Plexus posts are just as important as Plexus posts, if not more important. If you're constantly just doing Plexus stuff, people are going to mute you. People are going to miss the content. Constantly peppering people with nonstop Plexus, no matter how amazing it is, it falls on deaf ears. They're not reading it anymore. So that's why we don't want you to do that, because you in essence are missing your opportunity to communicate with people. And when we have that 70-30 ratio, then people do slow down and they're curious because they know you and are interested in what you're up to. So this is just one of the things about you that you like to do. Just like I like to go to Pure Barre and I like to take my kids to their extracurriculars. I like to cook. There's different things, and Plexus is part of that. So make sure you feel like you have a handle on that. If you don't, talk to your upline, ask them, hey, how's my feed look to you? Is there something I can do to improve on that? So posting's a big one. Make sure you're spreading those out. We have lots of calls on adding value, attraction marketing, all the things that go with posting. But when it comes down to it, you have to post. And when I say post, that's a term that covers stories too, guys, because stories are honestly the best way for your audience to connect with you and get to know you. And both of them are great. So make sure you're getting on both of them. And again, we have other calls to go into detail about stories and about storytelling and value adding. So second part of IPA is messages. You have to send messages to people, guys. I would say 75% of my customers never messaged me. I messaged them and I followed up with them. So you will have the percentage of people who are ready to get healthy and are brave and are comfortable having this conversation with you and reach out to you. And honestly, when someone does reach out to you, they're almost always ready to purchase. So to capture the audience who hasn't really made up their mind yet, or just isn't sure, guys, people want you to run that part of the show. And the way we do that is by reaching out to people. We have other calls on wording and types of messages. I'm not going to go into that today, but you must be sending messages. And there's two types of messages. You must be specifically talking to people every day that you've never talked to about Plexus before, ever. That is what we mean when we say cold message. Cold market, warm market, that's another discussion another day. Cold message is talking to someone you've never talked to about Plexus. If that's someone you run into at Walmart, if that's your aunt, if that's your neighbor, whatever. Now, obviously, the longer you're in this and the more people you talk to, the more creative you have to get with finding new people to talk to about Plexus. That's not probably a huge concern for most of you. Even those of you who think you've used up your warm market, you haven't, guys. It feels like that. I promise you haven't. There's people you haven't talked to that you've told yourself stories about. Oh, they're not interested. They're not going to want to hear about it. So we can work with you that if you feel like I don't have anyone else to talk to, please get with me, get with your upline. I promise you have more people to talk to. And then the second type of message is follow-up messages. And that kind of goes into my third point. Follow-ups are twofold: people who are on the products and then people you've talked to about the products before. It's averaging 10 to 15 touches now for someone to buy something. That's for all companies. That's, Dick's Sporting Good, Under Armour, Apple, Coke. You don't see any of those people letting up the gas pedal on their advertising. Think if you even watch regular TV anymore, the repetition of commercials is ridiculous and the cost of commercials is ridiculous. So why do they cost so much? Because they work. Why do they play them again and again and again? Because it works, guys. There's really smart salespeople out there for these multi-billion-dollar companies that it would be wise for us to, in essence, copy. Now, the way we do that, we have our own style of doing that, but the takeaway is repetition. That is normal. That is not annoying. That is professional. That is good customer service. these huge companies, Nordstrom's never gets in my email and is like, I hope I'm not bothering you, but we just wanted to remind you we're having a sale if you're interested, but if not, that's okay. Like Nordstrom's doesn't say that to me. They send me emails all the time. And you know what? I've never been irritated with Nordstrom's. Sometimes I feel like buying something from them. Sometimes I don't. Okay. So take that approach with it. We are no different than a big successful company. So we said posting, we said cold messages in essence, new messages, and then the follow-up system. For people who are on the products, really that follow-up system should be for the first 6-8 weeks going on in a 3-way chat. And then once they're really happy and settled after that, you and your upline can decide if you want to continue that in the 3-way chat, or if you have another system you're going to plug them into. So those are the top 3 priorities. I'm going to hit on some others, but those are the top 3 things that will make you money, that will keep your business afloat, number 1, and then number 2, growing. If you stop doing those things, posting and posting appropriately, following up, and sending new messages to people, you won't grow. You won't grow in the way you want. Now, guys, consistency and intensity are 2 different things. I would say the biggest difference between people who are super successful in this company and people who haven't gotten there yet is people who are super successful have mastered consistency. That's it. The speed at which you're successful has to do with intensity. And when I say intensity for Plexus purposes, I really mean volume, how much you want to do in a day. If you send 1 cold message a day, 5 cold messages a day, or 25 cold messages a day, you're going to get different results, okay, at a different speed. If you want to send 1 to 3 cold messages a day, that's totally fine. Just know, like, you're not going to get to diamond in 12 months, which is totally fine. Okay, that's fine. And if somebody's in a different situation and has to, pay all their bills suddenly, unexpectedly, and has all their kids at home and has to send 50 messages a day, yeah, they might go to diamond in 12 months. That's a lot of intensity. So just know what to expect with what you want and the appropriate time frame versus what time you're willing to give each day. You can do your IPA if you set yourself up correctly, and we're going to talk about under the next point with resources. Guys, there should be no reason your IPA, like when I actually sit down to do my IPA, it shouldn't take more than 20 minutes. I'm being dead serious. If you're prepared. Now I'm going to go into pitfalls and why it takes people an hour and a half. No. Okay. If you do the right things to prepare and you know where your resources are, everybody has 15 to 20 minutes. I don't care how many kids you have. You can be like, Mommy has to use the bathroom, and go hide in the bathroom and do your IPA. Brooke Hemingway and Emily Gibson did that for years. All right. And they all Brooke Hemingway homeschooled all her kids, and so did Fallon and all the things. The last few parts of IPA, which are nice to get to and are not essential to get to, they are important that you do sometimes, but not every day, is training and then kind of team support, team involvement at the bottom. Those things are important. They have to happen. You can't never train, never do personal growth. You can't always neglect to comment on your peers' posts and learn from them and participate in coaching. But those 2 things kind of are secondary ways to produce income. The effects of personal growth and training are you get better at your IPA. The effects of coaching and team participation and increased morale is you get better at your IPA. So those are secondary things. So you got to assess, like, on the bad days where everything's exploding, are you listening to training videos and trying to make yourself feel good that you did your IPA? Because that's not your IPA, guys. You got to find a way to squeeze the things in if you really want to grow. And that's a conversation you got to have with yourself. Are you willing to do the things you need to do to get where you want to get at the speed you want to get there? And own it. If you're okay with this taking a long time, that's fine. We sign up for careers that are 30-year careers to get mediocre retirements. So if you have a lot going on in your life and you can only do a little bit every day, and you're like, this might take me 10 years to get to where I want to go, that's fine. That's better than 30. That's okay if that's your path. So don't look to the left and right. Look at the people that are ranking up at this speed or that speed, or held this rank for this long or that long. That doesn't matter. You're comparing apples and oranges, first of all. And second, you don't know what intensity they're doing, consistency and intensity. So check yourself on that. That should be enough for IPA. So you sit down, you do your posts, you do your messages, and you do your follow-ups. And kind of relationship building is important in there. You can't, not have relationships with people, but that's just like living life, like go places, do things, all the invites, all the church things, like go to things, just be more friendly, have friends, like be social, and then everything else will naturally flow from that. So the second point I want to get into is resources. These are things that are going to make your IPA easy. This, I think, is a make or break, especially for newer people, or if you tend to overthink things. If you get in your head a lot and you know that that is a weakness of yours, that you're always second guessing and like, oh, I don't know what they're going to think, or I don't know if this wording sounds right. This is even more important for you to embrace. So what are the resources that you need to do? You need to pick your posts ahead of time and know where to find your posts. You should never be getting into IPA and like, what am I going to post today? Like, within reason. Sometimes I don't always have my exact post planned, but I have posts saved. I have two things saved. I have a memo list saved of posts that I want to create and draft, that when I think of them, when I'm out, when I'm in the car, when I'm in the shower, whatever, I write those on my memo list. You must write them down, because creativity and inspiration is going to hit at really random times. And that's not when you're going to have time to sit down and craft this post. And if you're really called to write something, it really doesn't take that long. Okay. At least in my experience, I feel that way. I don't like trying to force something. If I don't really feel in a spot where I feel really called, like the post I wrote today, I felt called to write that. That took me less than 5 minutes. Like, there was not a heavy workload on it, because it was something on my heart that I wanted to say, and I'd written it down a few days ago. Otherwise, I'm going to use somebody's testimony. I'm going to educate on something, and I have those saved. I don't go searching and looking for things. That is an epic waste of time. So if you don't feel like you know where to quickly and efficiently go to find posts, or how to track your ideas for posts, you need to talk to your upline. That's slowing your IPA down. That's a stumbling block that is unnecessary, that we can help streamline for you. Second one is Frank's List. So this, I swear, guys, this is not a real fun activity to do. Neither is paying bills, but it is something we got to sit down and do once a month. That's how I view my Frank's List. You're going to sit down, and depending on your intensity, your speed that you want to go, the volume you want to go, if you're going to talk to one brand new person a day, you need 30 names. If you're going to talk to 3 brand new people, you need 90 names. Now, you don't have to work every day, but you get what I'm saying. That takes some intention and some effort. And the best spots to look for it are your Facebook list. If you're an email person, looking through the people in your phone, looking through who's watching your stories. That will sustain you for years, guys. Okay, so until you've been doing this for years, you should be able to find people in there. You should be expanding your network. If you're constantly seeing the same people watch your stories and it's a kind of small amount, you need to get into relationship building. You need to add more people. You need to interact on their stories, on their pages, so that more people are seeing your stuff. That's something to troubleshoot. But the point is, you have to make a Frank's List. When you sit down to do IPA and message people, that is not the time to go, who should I message today? Who might be interested in Plexus? That's not the time. Okay. You got to set aside a chunk of time. If you don't want to do it all at once, do the 1st and 15th. A lot of people pay bills twice a month. Just assign it with that and sit down and say, I'm going to write 30 names down. And the cool thing is, you can detach when you write it down. You're like, I'm not messaging anyone right now. I'm just writing down names. So like, take the pressure off yourself. Like, all I'm doing today is writing down names. And then when you get to your IPA, you're just going to go in order. You're not going to talk yourself out of it. You're just going to pick, and you're just going to go, because you have no idea what that person is secretly suffering with. And you know you're going to have to talk to them probably 15 times. So let's get the ball rolling. Let's get started. You have no idea. You're one conversation away from everything changing. Kristen put up that post today. I love that. I don't even know who officially said the quote, but I say that to myself a lot. I'm like, I'm one message away from everything changing for someone else's life and my business. But you got to have the conversations. So we said, know where to find your posts ahead of time. Don't waste a bunch of time with that, and have a plan for crafting your own original ones, your Frank's list, or whatever you want to call it. If you don't know what Frank's list is, talk to your upline. But you should always be tracking new people to talk to ahead of time. And then accountability is the third part of resources. IPA sheets, we have a bunch of different types. They're all in the Google Drive. I'll drop it in our group chat after. If you can't get into the Google Drive, send me a private message and I'll make sure you have access. And they range from very short ones, like little baby IPA sheets for when you're first starting out. You only need to focus on a few things, to huge ones where like work like a jewel that have like massive stuff to do inside of a week. So look at them, pick one that makes you feel warm and fuzzy and not overwhelmed. And I go between them. There'll be a few months that I like one, and then I'm like, that's a little too much. I'm going to go to this more basic one for a little while. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back. That's okay, but have some sort of accountability. Why do we have accountability for our customers? All right. They're way more likely to be successful, right? If they come with a partner. Why do you think those stats are any different for us? Okay, so there's a reason that we have IPA chats, and there's a reason we do power hours. And the reason we do these things are if you have a buddy who's waiting for you at the gym, who's like, we're going to take a Pure Barre class together at 6 a.m. So I will meet you there at 6 a.m. I am way more likely to get my butt out of bed at 5 to get there because someone's waiting on me, versus if no one's waiting on me, I'm like, maybe I'll go tomorrow. IPA is the exact same way. So you got to find a way to hold yourself accountable. If it's printing the sheets and sending the sheets to your upline, if it's having a power partner where you guys just text each other when you've done your IPA, if it's participating in the IPA chat, that's the easiest way. If it's doing a power hour, that can be like with yourself. It doesn't have to be when we schedule power hours, you can schedule a power hour whenever you want with yourself, with your friend. You got to get creative and hold yourself accountable. It's not human nature to hold ourselves by ourselves with sheer willpower alone. There's a small percentage of people who can do that consistently. And we said the difference between people who have become super successful and aren't there yet is they've mastered consistency and intensity usually. So look what that looks like. And then the other resource key, I would say, is tracking your follow-ups. I've talked to a few of my girls about this, and they're like, I really wish you had told me this sooner. It would have made things easier. So you have to find whatever way feels good for you to track your follow-ups. But if you're going to be talking to new people every day and you need to talk to them 15 times, guys, you have to write it down somewhere. If that's electronically, if you love Excel, if you have a piece of paper and a notebook, whatever doesn't overwhelm you and feels good, but it's unrealistic to think I'm going to talk to 90 people a month, so over 1,000 people a year for 15 times. That's 15,000 touches, and I'm just going to remember no one's going to fall through the cracks. It's not going to happen. There's apps that will do it for you if you don't want to see all those names at once, and they'll just auto generate 2 or 3 names for you a day. And you can set, I want to talk to that person in a month. I want to talk to that person in 3 months, and it will automatically do it for you. I like to see all the names at once. So I like Excel. Talk to your upline, figure out which one works for you. This is not encouraging you to sit somewhere for 8 hours and organize all your follow-ups. Okay, that is not income producing activity. However, part of our income producing activity is follow-up. So you do need to just from this day forward, if you haven't tracked your follow-ups, try to start being intentional with tracking them. All right, common pitfalls before I get off of here, because Sabrina's doing our big call tonight, so we want to be there for that. These are things I see interfere with people's IPA that I have fallen victim to and other people have. And especially if you're tight on time, guys, you can't do these things. You can't afford to. So if you want to do any of these activities, there's a time and place for them after you've done your essentials first. Okay. Just scrolling. It's in essence, you need to put scrolling down as watching TV. Like, I like watching TV. I'm going to watch TV. I'm not going to give it up. Like, I carve out time to watch shows I like, but I do my other stuff first. Okay. So I'm not going to go like watch some shows and do my IPA later. Scrolling's the exact same way. I'm looking for who to talk to. That's not doing your IPA. That's a waste of IPA time. So you got to find a better way. And I think that's probably one of the biggest ones. People like scrolling the names, trying to figure out who they're going to talk to that day about Plexus. Overthinking wording. Guys, we've done this a long time. Our wording might not be perfect. It's good enough. You have to act. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. Everyone's going to take things a little differently and sound a little differently. Somebody's ready to get healthy, assuming it's not absurd wording, like it's well thought out and halfway decent. That's not going to make or break the conversation. If they want to get healthy, they're going to engage in a conversation with you. And if they're not ready, magic wording isn't going to suddenly make them ready. So stop overthinking exactly what this is going to sound like. And I promise people aren't thinking about us nearly as much as we think they are. And so just tell yourself that when you're worried. Over curating posts and images. All right. So the days of like all the beautiful, perfect Instagram pictures are over with. It's actually like a turnoff to people. That doesn't mean you can't have pretty pictures sometimes, but you shouldn't be like fixing an entire room and hiding stuff and rearranging stuff all the time and like over filtering. You can just go overboard with things. Now you shouldn't be taking these trash pictures where you look like you haven't showered in 3 days and there's like all this mess behind you. So there's a balance, but that shouldn't be taking up an hour of your time to get this like perfect image that you like to go with this perfect post. And it's been 2 hours and you actually haven't done anything. Overtraining and personal growth. This is a big one, guys. What I have discovered about it is a form of buffering. If you are learning things, you technically don't have to act yet because you're like, I'm going to act as soon as I finish learning this. But I got to finish learning this before I actually like do something. And so it's a way to buffer and to stop yourself from doing the hard things, especially the hard things. You're like, I'm not good at that. I want to get better at that. I'm going to go watch 7 videos on it. And then like, oh, I got to pick up my kids. I'll do it tomorrow. That is a black hole. So catch yourself. You can do training on things, but you have to set time limits. It only allows certain training, a certain amount a day. And then on the weekends or driving, you can do as much as you want, indulge, but you got to set a time limit. I've had to do this for myself where I'm only allowed to listen to this much training during my work hours. And then if I want to do more, it's outside of that. Learning new things. If you've never done a reel before, you need to do a reel. You need to learn how to do those things. The weekend is the perfect time to do that. Not in your regular IPA time where you need to do a post, you need to send image messages, you need to send follow-ups. 2.5 hours later, when you're still trying to figure out how to put together a reel, you've got nothing done. Okay. So you really have to, this is where triage comes in. Things are dying when you're trying to take care of something that really isn't essential. And then remaking systems and organizing. Again, ask me how I know. That is a form of buffering for me, that I think I can make this more efficient. I think I can make this better. And so which might be totally true, by the way. And I'm sitting there justifying my lack of action in one area because I have found a need in another area. There will always be needs. Always. There will always be training to watch, always be things to improve upon. You must work on your business first. All right. And then the very last thing I want to say, and we'll hop on, is habit forming when it comes to IPA. And we haven't really said this before, but it hit me about a month ago. And I'm like, I don't know why we don't approach things. We don't want, we want to be realistic with you with how much work you do need to do to get results with this business. And this is not a business you can do for 15 minutes a day and expect career money. So you got to keep that in mind. However, if you are starting a brand new habit that you've really never done, or that you've gotten out of doing for a really long time, say you used to be a runner, you haven't run in a long time, and get one of those apps to do a 5K or a 10K. Does it say like, go out and run the 5K and just suck it up and willpower, push through? No, it doesn't say that. It says run a little bit today and then do a little bit more tomorrow and then a little bit more. The 1% things, the tiny incremental improvements. You have to retrain your brain, retrain your schedule, often retrain your family when you're going to institute a new habit or pick up a habit that you haven't been good about doing consistently. So what that might mean, if you've been really inconsistent with IPA, is being consistent with doing 15 or 20 minutes for a week or two or 3 or 4 weeks, then really consistent with doing 30 minutes. Stop doing the whole, like, I'm gonna work for 3 hours today when you haven't been consistently working for 20 minutes. So that whiplash back and forth will make an unstable business. It is better to consistently do 20 or 30 minutes long haul than these massive work for a few hours, don't do anything for a few days, work for a few hours. So don't do that. If you feel like I need to build up, I need to get a more consistent routine, sit down, do a coaching call, and figure out what is actually realistic for number one, your current life, and then number two, your goals. All right, we went fast. Let's hopefully it was helpful, and let's all hop on Pink Power.